2022 was a decent year for video games.
It wasn't the amazing follow-up to 2017 that most were hoping for. Like, there was no big Zelda or Mario, and there were definitely a lot of letdowns, like Tears of the Kingdom being delayed until next year. But I think it was a pretty good year for video games, despite that. I loved Stray and thought it was a pretty fun action-adventure game. I didn't get to play God of War or Elden Ring, but I definitely want to. Mario plus Rabbids I skipped out on because of all the stuff with Ubisoft. But I loved the first one, and maybe I'll get it when it inevitably goes on sale. My two favorite games that I played this year were Splatoon 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the games I'll be talking about today. They were the two games I liked the most this year, and I thought it'd be fun to discuss which one I thought was better. So without further ado, here's my two games of the year. Xenoblade Chronicles is the spiritual successor to the Xenogears and Xenosaga series, made by Monolith Soft. I'm pretty sure you most likely know the story of Project Rainfall, but as a recap for people newer to the series, Xenoblade Chronicles and two other games, The Last Story and Pandora's Tower, were originally going to be Japan-exclusive games. Thanks to the rioting of Americans, those three games were eventually shipped over to America. They decided not to do an American casting for Xenoblade, so Europeans had to do the voice acting, which is kind of a running thing throughout the franchise. The game came over, was moderately successful on the Wii, selling 913,000 copies, and got two sequels in 2015 and 2017, those being Xenoblade X, a spin-off of sorts, and Xenoblade 2, which as of writing is the best-selling Xenoblade game. Xenoblade 2 got a prequel in 2018, and Xenoblade 1 got a remaster in 2020, bringing in with it a new epilogue. Xenoblade Chronicles is one of, if not my favorite video game franchises ever. My first game was Xenoblade 2 and I fell absolutely in love with it. I fell so deep in love that I am now approaching 300 hours in the game. Keep in mind that's all on one save file. My total time is around 400 hours and I only got the game's DLC last Christmas. I haven't even touched Torna yet. After falling absolutely head over heels for 2, I got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and it's one of, if not my favorite games ever. I loved every second of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and I'm currently working on 2 100% playthroughs. I might make a video once I'm done with those, talking about 100%ing it. I bet you can imagine my excitement on February 9th when I watched the Nintendo Direct and what was announced? I thought September was a reasonable time to wait for the next big Xenoblade game, but Monolith Soft graced us with a decreased wait time, releasing it 2 months earlier. I bought the game day one. It was the last one in stock at my current Walmart. I guess someone else really needed something as a stepladder. After playing it for many hours, you may be curious to hear my thoughts on such a legendary game. To me, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the worst Xenoblade game. The combat's fun, but doesn't feel like it has a focus. The world was cool, but doesn't even compare to 1 and 2's world. All of the amazing Klaus stuff was dropped for no good reason, making Ionios have the worst overarching story in the series. The controls felt really weird. You can't even set the camera back to its default position, and the plus button doesn't pause for some reason. A quarter of the OST is really generic and forgettable. The world's less memorable. The game doesn't look as good. The intro is miserable and takes forever. The hero quests all feel super samey and get super tedious. They took away Hearts to Hearts and replaced them with boring campfire gossip. All of the villains are really boring, one-note, personality-less, samey-looking bores. There's probably tons of other problems I didn't even mention. However, this game's individual story and exploration and characters and combat even are on par with the other games, if not better. Though the combat feels unfocused, it's still incredibly fun and frantic, and the addition of being able to switch characters is a game changer. Though the Kavesi classes suck at first, once you unlocked Agnes arts, it becomes a strategy game, waiting for when to use your arts best for the most damage. The Agnes classes are far superior, but allow the use of Kavesi arts, allowing you to save up an extra art for your combo. The ability to use any class on any character makes them feel a bit interchangeable, but allows for a party of almost anything you desire. I personally choose the Yumsmith army, but anything works. You can also add an additional hero character who helps with break combos and in chain attacks. Speaking of, even though I dislike the chain attacks getting rid of the battle music, like a certain mechanic in Xenoblade 1, they're the best in the entire franchise, turning the game into a strategic number game about which attack is best to use. The Ouroboros stuff is the cherry on top, with it being a new take on the late game mechanic in Xenoblade 2. While combat doesn't feel as good as 1 or 2, it's still fun. Earlier I said that 25% of the music is forgettable. The rest, the 75%, is top-tier Xenoblade music. When the world themes designed to be memorable, they are absolutely gorgeous tracks that stay in your head for weeks. The symbology of the flute really helps with the game's amazing themes, and all of the combat music is stellar, with the exception of the Mobius theme. This game might have the best combat themes in the entire game, which is definitely saying something. The characters are all amazing and super likable. They have this amazing chemistry, and watching them grow closer throughout the game is very gratifying. They all have incredibly realistic struggles, and watching them bond and get through their troubles is realistic and memorable. My favorite characters were Mio, Uni, Senna, and Noah. Uni was just as, if not more, sassy than Nia, making for a great, more cynical comic relief character.
Alright then, my turn.
You too.
Don't happen every day. Yeah!
Wow! Never do that again!
Come on. You're already soaking wet anyway. What difference does it make?
The difference is, you're an asshole. What's difference?
I also think her trauma was well handled, and it goes to interesting places later in the story. Senna is just a bundle of joy, and is always a great character whenever she's on screen. Her copying other characters' speech to be less like herself and having a self-identity crisis is honestly relatable, though I wish her side story was more focused on her.
Huh? I was under the impression that you didn't like fish.
Huh? That is true. But can't be too picky. My muscles need protein, you know?
Hey, Senna. There's no need for this.
Huh?
Just be yourself. You know you don't have to do what I do, right?
No, that's not...
Senna.
Sorry.
Come on. You say that too often. You've nothing to apologize for, Senna.
Okay.
Eat what you enjoy. Never stop being you. Okay?
I guess I'll be eating your mom. Her character is really interesting since she's already full of personality and a great character and is optimistic about everything, yet she gets worried about who she is and who she's turning into. Noah is pretty chill for most of the game, and though I didn't connect to him like I did with Shulk and Rex, his story at particular spoilery parts is excellent, and it works perfectly with Mio's. Mio is my favorite character in the game, and is one of my favorite Xenoblade characters, period. The fact that the whole game, she's on a constantly ticking timer, adds so much to the tragedy of her character, and everything during that same spoilery moment I mentioned with Noah is excellent. Like, I really love Mio, she's a great character. Even though this game has the worst connected story, with a lack of Klaus, and a lot of stuff that I was hoping would be explained, that didn't get explained, the individual story is the best of the entire series. I'm not lying when I say that I cried very hard during this game, like sobbing. That's the first time I've ever sobbed at a game, and it's one of my absolute favorite gaming memories. Though I'm incredibly disappointed the world doesn't take place on Titans, the world is still fun to explore, and the references are really nice. If you can't tell, I really love this game. It's one of my favorite games despite being the weakest, and though it's definitely not as good as Xenoblade 1 or 2, I wasn't really expecting it to be. I just wanted a good time with fun characters and a great story, and that's what I got. It's definitely close to being a masterpiece in my eyes, though with another playthrough I might think it is. Splatoon is an online shooting game that debuted on the Wii U in 2015. The point of the game is that you're half kid and half squid. You can shoot ink out of the weapon in kid form and swim through the ink in squid form. The first game had multiple modes, the main big one being Turf War, a mode where your goal is to spray ink on more ground than your opponent. The other online mode was Ranked Mode, a more competitive mode where you played certain different minigames, using your abilities. One example is Tower Mode, where you have to move a tower along a set path by standing on it, but you become super vulnerable. The core gameplay remains the same since you're still trying to ink turf for defense, but it's changed up a bit by adding a new goal. There was also an offline campaign, and it mostly focuses on platforming and using your surroundings to get through an obstacle course. There was also a squid jumping minigame that was on the loading screens. After 2 years, in 2017, Splatoon 2 was released to, I think, positive reception? It was my first Splatoon, and it's basically the first game with a few improvements and a few not improvements. Starting with the negative, according to competitive players, the stages were a lot less well designed. I personally think they're definitely weaker than in upcoming games, and Splatoon 1's looked more interestingly designed, with each stage having a major gimmick. The single-player mode is back, and though I thought it was decent, others who have played the first game seem to have the common conception that the first was way better. I don't know though, I have never played the first. I've got too much of my backlog right now. The only other single-player stuff is stalking and a rhythm minigame you unlock after beating the story mode. I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm bad at the rhythm game. The main online modes are the same. Turf War is just as fun, and the ranked modes have a strange yet fitting leveling up system. Don't ask me how to explain it though, I'm still trying to get my bachelor's degree in engineering. I'm not sure if the same system is in the first game, but I'm bringing it up now, so if it is, then pretend I talked about it then. They added a new thing to the matchmaking screen where you can mess around with the music, truly riveting. They introduced new weapons, the first ones to come being the dualies, everyone's favorite. The biggest thing they added was a new mode called Salmon Run. In it, you team up with 3 other people to defeat salmon creatures and steal their eggs. It's a really fun mode, and the salmons look terrifying. Maybe my favorite mode in the entire series. After launch, they kept introducing new clothes and items, and in 2018 released DLC, the Octo expansion. I haven't played it yet, once again too many games in my backlog, but it looks fun and challenging, and it seems to be what the main single player of the game should have been. It also introduces the Octolings as playable characters, ending racism. As my first Splatoon game, I loved it, and I spent hours dominating Turf Wars with my NZAP 89. I even got decently high in ranked mode, which is nice. 4 years later, and it's 2021! It was February, and I was watching a direct from my favorite video game company, Nintendo. They were going over games that I'm sure were important, but the big thing they showed off was a brand new Splatoon. I died that day, and I still haven't come back. I remember being excited, and on April 2022, we were finally given a release date. I was so hyped, I got it around my birthday and proceeded to play very little of it because my younger sibling was obsessed with it, gosh darn it! But after they stopped playing, I played it like crazy, especially this last November and December. So, I'm sure you're wondering, what's my opinion? Splatoon 3 is easily the best Splatoon game. While the core gameplay and modes are the same as Splatoon 2, everything's been improved. They added 2 new weapon types, being the Stringer and Splatana. The Tri-Stringer is like a bow weapon that acts like a hybrid of a Charger and Splatling, and it's mostly used as a defensive type of weapon. You can charge it up and release 3 shots of ink. They explode after a second if you miss your target. You can also jump to shoot your shots vertically, leading to easier kills. I used to think this weapon kinda sucked, but as I've played with it more, I've gotten better. It's a fun weapon that requires precision, and I enjoy using it. I'm excited to use it in the future. The only changes I would make is making the missed shots explosion bigger, and maybe make it easier to kill with. The second variant of the Stringer is the Reflex 450, a more offensive variation of the weapon. The mechanics are the same, except it trades off the Tri-Stringer's range for a much quicker charge time and faster fire rate, and it no longer leaves mines that explode. This weapon is infamous for being really good at Turf Wars, since the paint output is insane, and the special is Tenta Missiles, a pretty hated special. I really enjoy using this weapon, even more than the Tri. It's a lot easier to kill with, since it's a direct hit, guaranteed 135 damage, and it's way better at painting. Overall, a pretty fun weapon. The only thing I would do is change the sub, because Curling Bomb sucks. The other weapon they added was the Splatanas, a sword-like weapon that's definitely more of an offensive weapon. The first variant of the weapon is the Splatana Wiper. Attacking with it normally fires a horizontal slash of ink, making the sword weapon more like a shooter. If you hold down and release the shoot button, you shoot out a very strong vertical blast, making it better for one-on-ones. It's a fun weapon, but it strangely feels underpowered and like it doesn't kill enough. The next variation is the Splatana Stamper, a slower but more damaging version of the Splatana Wiper. Though I enjoyed using it, it felt less powerful than the Wiper, even though I killed more. The Special and Sub make up for that though, being two of my favorites in the game, the Burst Bomb and the Zip Caster. Overall, some pretty great weapons, though I wish there were more new ones at launch. The returning modes all came back better than ever, starting with Turf War. Turf War remains pretty much unchanged, which is both its biggest benefit and detriment. It's a fun mode to play casually or when testing out new weapons, but just like everyone else says, only the last 30 seconds matter, and one slip-up can result in spawn camping, which leads to crushing defeat. It's fun, but still very unbalanced. Same as usual. The ranked modes are all the same, just as fun and frantic. There's two versions now, a ranked mode that doesn't take away or give many points, perfect for a more casual experience, and a mode that uses a new feature added to the game. At the ends of battles, you get awards telling you what you did best in the battle. In the new mode, you have to win 5 battles and can only lose 3. The awards you win at the end of battle can give you a ton of extra points, making it the perfect mode to increase your rank quickly. I really like this change, as it encourages practicing and getting better. Another thing they added is a practice room for when the match is loading, finally giving you something to do during wait times. The practice room is well designed and will definitely make any long load times in other online games that much more unbearable. Did somebody say bear? Salmon Run's back! And even though it looks very similar to 2 Salmon Run, it's mechanically very different. They added new salmon monsters, which is cool, but the big thing they added was throwing salmon eggs. This simple addition is a game changer, as it makes transporting eggs that much quicker. Other than that, it's basically the same super fun mode, probably still my favorite overall. They added a new card game mode called Table Turf, and I think it gets more flack than it deserves. It's a fun little side thing in my opinion. The story mode is back, and it's definitely an improvement for Splatoon 2. They seem to have gone for what the Octo expansion did and have more trial-based levels than obstacle course levels. I think it works really well, and since the levels don't have any specific formula they all have to go by, they can be a lot more creative. One level could be a 5-second challenge about sniping a balloon surrounded by insta-kill balloons. Another could be a traditional get-to-the-end level. There's a ton of variety, and since you can only use a set amount of weapons that the level is built for, it adds a lot of replayability, while also getting rid of the ludicrous 100% criteria from Splatoon 2. Like, seriously, playing each level a minimum of 8 times? Absolutely brutal. The main progression is collecting eggs and throwing them at blobs of insta-kill fur blocking your main path, turning an almost pointless collectible into an essential one. You can play however many levels you want in any order, meaning you can beat every level in the world or none of them. The only required levels are the bosses and the last few and the first 6 or so. The rest is up to you. The bosses are all super fun too, and they make great use of mechanics, and are definitely the reason why you should upgrade your splatter shot. The music in the levels is also great. There's a lot of bangers as per usual. Speaking of, the music in this game is probably the best in the whole series. The battle music for online is super hype and a joy to listen to, with my favorite being Candy Coated Rocks, of course. And the single player levels and overworld themes all have this amazing lo-fi sound and help with concentration. The Splatfest music in the plaza is amazing. I'm pretty sure it's folk Japan, and the music and the night sky with bright lights really set this atmosphere that can't be matched. Overall, Splatoon 3 is my favorite of the 3 Splatoon games and is definitely my favorite online game. It has fast and fun gameplay, a great campaign, fun side modes, and is just an overall phenomenal game. I'd be happy to spend a few hundred hours just trying to get better, and I'm excited to play more. I really love both of these games. They both gave me a great time, and in my opinion, were the highlights of the year. For the question of which I would choose as my game of the year, it could honestly be a debate whether something that's already been done but perfected is better than something very flawed but very heartfelt and impactful. After many hours of rolling around in bed, debating to myself which I like more, I've come to my final conclusion. My game of the year for 2022 is Babylon's Fall. No, just kidding. It's Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I absolutely love Splatoon 3, but Xenoblade 3 does things that I didn't know games could do. It tells an amazing story with great characters and a big world to explore with fun combat. It's everything I want from a game. While it's not perfect, it's something I'll never forget, an irreplaceable game that I'd be happy to spend a lot of time in. It could honestly go either way though, and my opinion might change tomorrow since both of these games are so close in quality. And with that, my video comes to an end. I thank you for watching, and I hope you can understand my points. I hope you go and have a great day, and if you haven't checked out these games I've talked about, then please do. I'll see you in the next one.